I think boldness comes. The more we're outside of our comfort zone, the stronger we become.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. Do you want to make this year epic? So does Shelly Weaver. Shelly is the founder of Epos Sports Experience, which is a nonprofit dedicated to transforming the lives of youth. And she really has built an impactful organization in really just a short amount of time. Epos is the Greek word for epic, and this organization sponsors camps and events for kids in grades 7th through 12th, focusing in mainstream sports, rodeo, and agriculture. This organization is going into its 5th year and has already made a significant impact in the lives of students across Oklahoma. And as you'll hear, she is growing this organization in some really meaningful and impactful ways for our youth. And so stick around for that because it's absolutely incredible. And then also, towards the end of the episode, she shares her advice for people who are thinking about starting a nonprofit. And I think it's very informative. So stick around for that if you've been thinking about starting a nonprofit or know somebody who is thinking about it. I hope you enjoy this visit with Shelly Weaver. I have to tell you guys that I have the most amazing woman here, Shelly Weaver, who is going to be talking about Epos and actually a lot more than that. And so she and I were talking right before I started recording, and she was saying some great things. And I told her, hang on, pause, I'm going to start recording. So let me welcome you, though, to the podcast, Shelly.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. I have been wanting to talk to you for a while. You're an incredible individual, a force. And you started an organization, a nonprofit organization called Epos. Right. And it is amazing to me because I'm sure you were already busy, and instead of just donating money to something somewhere, you had it on your heart to start this organization. And so if you could kind of share a little bit about why you decided to start Epos and what Epos is.
So the reason behind Epos is because I felt led. And, no matter what someone's religious beliefs are, when something is put on your heart, to follow that and to step into your calling and to step into what you're supposed to do. And for me, it was Epos. It started as a sports camp. And then there has also went into a huge youth outreach. And so it is something that is very impactful. It is the highest of sports camps, but it is a life camp. And so it teaches kids as they go through adversity how to overcome. When I have parents say, oh, well, my child is so grounded. I'm sure your child is, but you just told me how you're struggling, because of situations that you're facing in life. And yet you're not even teaching your child the tools to overcoming. And you're really having a hard time with where your child is at or how they are acting or how they are handling situations. And as adults, we suck at handling situations at times. That's the only word for it. And I absolutely hate that word. But it is truly, it's what it is. It's real. And so for me, it was all about starting something. And I can't even tell you how many times I was told, this will never work. You can never do this. And so something being told that inspires me more to push harder. And I knew that it was, that God had put on my heart to do this. And so then it really fired me up to keep going. And every time somebody would say that to me, I would laugh and it would give me more encouragement because I thought, well, we'll see how this works out because I know it's going to be something great. I think the biggest thing, as for me, it was I'm a very strong woman, but to step outside of my accounting background and then to step in the world of nonprofit. And I structured our nonprofit where it's totally volunteer, 100%. I didn't want anyone, I'm not saying for others it's wrong. I'm saying for me, I didn't want people to capitalize off of the kids. I didn't want them to capitalize off of the generosity of pro athletes that come and help. Mm-hmm. And so it's 100% volunteer based. And that was a choice that we made when I set it up, and it worked really well. I think that when you're starting off and you're doing something, I think boldness has to come with it. And I think just like we were talking about before you went live, it is really hard sometimes. Women are perceived, if they're bold, that maybe they're overbearing or they're almost, others can view them. And sometimes inside we think, oh, we shouldn't be that bold. And sometimes it's just stepping outside of our comfort zone. And so I think boldness comes. The more we're outside of our comfort zone, the stronger we become. And I think that's what's really important, is that it is so easy to just have a flicker of a flame instead of a burning flame. And so you go through this and you're like, are you going to be a flicker of light in this world, or are you going to be a flame? And that's where I'm at, is I don't want to be a flicker. And so for me, I would want anyone that is going through things and they're trying to decide what's next in life. Where do I go? What do you feel in your heart? Where do you feel you're being drawn to? You have a passion and love in your heart for things that you may not understand. Why you're drawn to certain things. I have always loved teenagers. Everybody thought, oh my gosh, you're crazy. And we have over 1,500 at one time. And parents are waving goodbye and blowing kisses, and they are glad. And it is the most incredible week during the summer to have all of them together.
You're talking about the camp.
Yes.
That's 1 week during the summer at Oklahoma State.
Yes.
That houses the student athletes and
overnight camp.
But
what I wanted to do was, because our camp is a week long, is that sports camps today cost $1,200 to $1,500. Very expensive. Not every child can afford to get the top tier training. And so what I did is I said, I do not want it to go above $99. And I want that to include the camp. I want it to include their dorms. And I want it to include the meals. And everybody laughed at me. I mean, I literally would go and sit in front of sponsors and they would laugh and say, it can't be done. You cannot financially do it. And I said, you watch me. It's been done since 2019. We also sponsor any child in need. We sponsored 44% of all children last year.
So if they sign up and they don't even have the $99, then you cover them 100%. They just have to get to the camp in
That's
Stillwater. It. Okay.
That's it.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay.
Yeah, so it's so much more. And, a lot of times when you go to camps, somebody's financial status, somebody may feel less than, a child may feel less than. And so what I didn't want a child to do was kids to come to camp and maybe they couldn't afford to Uber in food every day, and maybe they needed to go to the convenience store. And sometimes, and I've done this long enough, sometimes they don't even have money for snacks. So in addition to all this, we also pack snack bags that we keep there for when we notice, and try to be very conscious if there's any child that maybe doesn't have a snack bag for their room. Mm-hmm. And we make sure that the next day they've got a snack bag on their bed. And so there's things that you don't think about that come into play, but when you level the playing field like that, what you would see is kids all over the state of Oklahoma. There's not groups of this school or groups of this school. There's not cliques. All of the kids, all the boys, they're all out there together. And when so much in today's society, they talk about, there's so much separation. I really want to say, come to Epos then, because I'm going to show you unity. And the unity is in our kids.
Okay, that's incredible. Just because the way you unite the kids and have them feel like they're welcome, they're a part of things, at really a top tier camp. So
it is very much.
So talk to me about the coaches that come, and then also the programming, because that is next level or top tier. I mean, for sure. So
what we do is we had over 100 pro athletes and pro coaches. I have everyone. Coach Smith is OSU head coach, of course. He's my
John Smith?
Yes, he's my wrestling director.
Okay.
I love Coach Smith.
He's incredible.
Yes, he is. He's an incredible man. I have the Philadelphia Eagles coach, Jamal Singleton, flies in. He only has 2 weeks vacation, and he spends a week at Epos with us.
Oh, wow.
There was 36 pro football players, including 4 Super Bowl. And they're not just OSU guys. We have tons of OU guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have Roy Williams come and help. Mm. And sometimes maybe they're not OU or OSU, but yet they've moved to Oklahoma, or sometimes they fly in to come. But we do 9 sports, and a child can choose 2 sports. Each sport is only 3 days. Mm-hmm. So a child can choose like football and then boys basketball, and they can stay all week long. Mm-hmm. And so that is how the program, as far as the sports side, as far as the training, definitely top tier. But then what we did was, a lot of times people don't realize, and coming from being a pro athlete in barrel racing for so many years, and then talking with different pro athletes, we came up with a program of there's more than just what happens on the field or in the gym. Mm-hmm. For a pro athlete. Mm-hmm. So we really took in, okay, what did we all do? Well, we had life coaches. You cannot play professional sports without a life coach because there's too many valleys, right? And so we bring in the top of the line life coaches who are coaching these pro athletes. And they get to speak just words of encouragement and empowerment over to these kids, and letting them see their strengths instead of their weaknesses. And so then besides that, we have mental toughness classes. Well, as a pro athlete, we all had mental toughness coaches. Mm-hmm. And so the same curriculum that was set up, speed and agility, that was set up in the pros that you see today, we took it over and applied it in the camp for the kids. Then we took it one more step. And then we took it, and then we will have a class for drug and alcohol prevention. We will have a pro athlete come in and share their walk, how they had everything. And they were doing great, and they were making good decisions, and maybe in an instance started to veer off. And we know as adults, it's so easy. You take 1 or 2 steps in the wrong direction, before long, you're 200 yards away from the person you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And so we really talk about that, and they share their own experiences. We've had the DEA come in and share about fentanyl. Major issue.
Gosh, that's great.
Yes. And so, and then we have the crisis side. Our website, as of February 1st, you will see a place on our website that is a youth hotline chat now button.
Wow.
And so there will be counselors that are able and volunteers that are able to talk to kids. We will be instantly notified if a child needs someone to talk to, whether it's just to say, I'm really having a bad day, or if it's a crisis. I get calls from kids if they have a grandparent or a parent die, in handling it. Sometimes I don't have as many friends at school as what I would like. I've had a call where a young boy, he was in the foster care system, and he got his first job. And he didn't have anyone to call to share that with. And so I get this text from this young man, and he asked me if I have a minute, and trust me, I always have a minute. And I said, absolutely. And so he called, and he was so excited. And he's like, Miss Shelly, guess what? I got my first job. And so you don't realize how many kids don't have support. And sometimes, and I think of myself, I mean, I work so many hours. Well, gosh, to have such really strong mentors that Epos Outreach provides, to be able to encourage those kids and stay connected with them. So even if they have a great home life, just to have somebody else just speaking into their lives. I mean, I think back in our generation, we had, our best friend's mom was like our mother. You don't see that so much in today's time. And so to put in really strong mentors is really more crucial now than it's ever been.
And you definitely are doing that. I didn't realize you had that component that's starting in February. That is brand new then.
It is. We haven't even launched it yet. Actually, it's not even been on social media yet or anything. We're waiting for the website. Forge Media does all of our website and everything. And so they are designing that component. And it's really important for us. I mean, that's the whole it's the whole point, right? 365 days a year. It's not a 1 week in the summer. It's just not a sports camp. It's 365 days a year.
So tell me about the overall overarching benefit, or maybe an example that you've seen of how it's really impacted one of the kids.
We had a young man, and the mother sent me a message, and she said, I have to thank you. My son was failing every class. He was not eligible the second semester. And so when he came to camp that summer, new school year, of course, gets to have a fresh. He never made strong grades and really just struggled to have confidence playing his sport. And his sport happened to be football. And he went out, not only did he come out of Epos so much stronger with so much more confidence, but then he turned around. He literally worked on himself every day and applied everything they learned at camp. He ended up getting leadership award. This mother sent me the picture of the leadership award, and he made the principal's honor roll. He had never, and he was a senior, he had never made the principal's honor roll in his life.
This is really like impacting so many, and the way that it's trickling down, like it's making the like in that situation, that scenario, the mom then is so happy,
yes.
And then the son is so happy, and probably then the people around them.
The
it's just, yes, it helps so much. There's not that friction. I mean, it's like now the kid kind of gets it.
And I think it's really important because and I know with having 3 grown children now, and one just moved out of the house, I think a lot of times those teenagers think, oh my gosh, like mom doesn't understand me. They're so not cool, so to speak. And I think the difference is to really be able to come to a place to hear a pro athlete sit down and go, "Ma'am, what are you thinking? Why are you making these decisions?" Man, it's received like 1,000 times more than if you and I are lecturing our own children. Sometimes when I've heard one of the coaches really talk to a child about how their actions are or their words are speaking over themselves, can really be critical. And we see a rise in suicide right now with youth. It is a huge issue. And of course, that is something we are very, very adamant about, which is why we're seeing the outreach on that side come into play. But I feel like that when somebody else can say the exact same things we're saying to our own children, and it's not received. But let some pro athlete come and say it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I should have got this." I mean, we don't care as long as they get it.
See, and that's awesome because think of the influence that these pro athletes have. And here you've got them there and they're saying the right things. Like they're really pouring into those kids, building them up.
And it's just not for even just that camp. Those pro athletes are committed to the kids. So that if you have a child that is struggling and let's say their basketball shot's off and, they don't know why, but all of a sudden they were scoring 20 a game and it went to 5 and they can't get out of the slump. And they call and say, "Shelly, I need to talk to Coach Owen, or I need to talk to this coach or that coach." It doesn't matter which sport, that coach will call them, that pro athlete, and tell them, "Send me your video." If the child, depending where they live, our pro athletes have even shown up to watch them play to see how they can help them. I mean,
so it's way more than just this one week or a
Yes.
few days. It's
that's just where the foundation's built.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, so I know that it costs a lot of money to have this happen. And probably that's why there were a lot of naysayers in the beginning. Like, how you can't do this. It would cost way too much money. You would make very little on the end of people paying $99. But I know you have a fundraiser coming up. I attended last year and it was phenomenal. So I want you to talk about this fundraiser and then where that money goes.
So it's the Epos Gala. It's held at Southern Hills. And this year, keynote speaker is Adrian Peterson, OU legend. And that's what I love. Here again, we see it's held at OSU, but yet these OU guys, they're in. I love that. And Adrian's flying in and going to come and speak. And so excited for that. It gives people an opportunity to hear his story of triumph and strength and how sports play a part in his life. We have a great meet and greet before where everyone can socialize. It's a great opportunity for businesses to be able to network and different levels of sponsorship. You can either come as an individual and just buy a ticket. You can be a table sponsor. And lots of different levels there. But 100% of the money raised goes for the entire outreach program, everything. And then it goes for sponsoring first and foremost. So we have a part, and you were there during it. We are raising money to sponsor kids. And every bit of the money raised went to sponsor kids. Then the remainder, of course, is food. So, I mean, these kids could eat a lot. And then now we have all of our outreach programs, but the gala is specifically for the camps and to be able to feed the kids and to be able to use the outreach programs to be able to utilize so that we're able to do more on a one-on-one. We have given away 112 pairs of athletic shoes since August when we launched that program. Remember at the gala we talked about the soul? And so we were able to do 112 pairs. And that is set up through a coach has to call and say, "I have a child that, doesn't have a pair." And so we make sure those kids have a pair of athletic shoes so that they can go out there and perform. And so lots of different programs, but of course, making sure we provide every child sponsorship, most important, and then food.
Okay. Lots of food, Shelly.
Lots of food.
And lots of food.
Lots
Snacks
of food.
and food.
Yes.
So for the people that are not able to attend in person, is there an opportunity for them to just make a donation possibly online?
Yes, on our website.
Okay.
If they go to Epos Athletes with an S.org, there's a donate button. They can even be a one-time donor, or you can mark that you want to be a monthly donor. They have that opportunity to do either one. I want to be a good steward of my own money and what I give to. And so for them to come out and to get to see firsthand and get to see the Epos team and to meet everyone, then I think that helps also, because there's some phenomenal nonprofits out there. And sometimes we can't give to every one of them. And so we would just appreciate the opportunity for them to hear about what we are doing.
And that's what I'm hoping to do, to spread the word. Yeah,
and it's 7th through 12th grade.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad that you mentioned the ages of the kids. Okay. So then let me ask you too, because I know this takes a lot to get off the ground and put on. And so during that time, during camp week or whatever, are there volunteers needed? How can people get personally involved?
So we have different, and not everybody wants to volunteer with youth. That's fine. As far as be a dorm volunteer, we have, of course, check-in volunteers that are needed. You can imagine what check-in volunteers are. We have a great group of kitchen help, ladies that would like to come and serve. And incredible. And then we have a prayer group. If you're that prayer warrior and you would just like to be that person that is there to pray with kids if they need prayer and they need support, that is also needed. And then if your gifting is in, doing events as far as gala, we have a clay shoot that we partner with the former Oklahoma NFL on. And if you like doing those kind of events, and then we have committees that you can serve on. So lots of different ways to be able to help.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of opportunity. So I appreciate you speaking to that, because people can donate money, but then also, or donate their time. So and I know all of that is deeply needed. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I do think that you're on fire. You have a bright flame. I feel like that song, "This Girl Is on Fire," that is you. And I am so happy that you have stepped into that, because a lot of people hearing no over and over and over, however many times, you don't have to say how many times you heard it when you were so excited talking to people.
Constantly.
It's like, you just keep moving on until you get with the people, the group that gets it, that gets your vision and knows your heart and is willing to support you. Because sometimes it just takes one or two people then to say yes, and then to have it grow, have that ripple effect. So this has exploded, though, I feel like.
It has.
And glory to God too for that. And you and I have had conversations about that for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's incredible what you're doing, what you're providing for the kids in and around Oklahoma. And I know that there are bigger dreams to come, more than that. But right now we are so lucky that you're in Oklahoma and you've chosen to, focus on us here.
And we have a lot coming up that we are working on. We launched the Epos Ag Camp.
Okay.
And tremendous agriculture, and we have a strong FFA here. We had a cattle clinic 2 months ago. Fantastic. And some of the top cattle judges in the country came and were able to help these kids. And so love that side of it too, because sometimes, my kids were in FFA, but then they also played sports. There's a lot of kids out there that don't. And so giving the agriculture kids the same opportunity to have a overnight camp, that's what we are working towards there. So lots of really big things coming.
Okay, so stay tuned. That's
yes,
really cool.
That's tuned.
Really cool. In just a minute, Shelly is going to share her advice for anyone thinking about starting a nonprofit. But before she does, I'd like to take a minute to thank Brain Code Centers for sponsoring my live event, Conversations with Passion and Purpose. Let me share a little about them. They're a resource for anyone struggling with anxiety, focus, ADHD, mental performance, memory, trauma, and PTSD, not to mention insomnia, mood disorders, autism, depression, and really so much more. Brain Code Centers uses neurofeedback therapy in conjunction with a multitude of other research-based treatments to help their clients take control of their symptoms and retrain their brain to function at its peak. Programs utilize neurofeedback, which is a clinically proven approach to holistic mental health care. This approach enables Brain Code Centers to develop customized neurofeedback plans that are tailored to each individual. This specific and targeted treatment is non-invasive and will strengthen specific areas of the brain. I personally completed a brain mapping session and learned so much. I am looking forward to starting a treatment plan soon that will optimize my own brain's performance. They have offices in Colorado, Texas, and Oklahoma, and the exciting part is they also have remote treatment options. So if you're interested in looking into this treatment, simply visit braincodecenters.com. Now back to our conversation with Shelly. Okay, Shelly, in wrapping up, I know that you got a lot of no's when you were talking to people about starting this nonprofit that was on your heart. And so I'm wondering if you have some advice for people who have a nonprofit thought or something that they'd like to start,
Right.
and what your advice would be for somebody thinking about starting a nonprofit.
There's two sides to being a nonprofit. Of course, there's the volunteer side, but there is a business side. And if you don't have strong business skills, I would definitely advise beforehand to take an online course or something in that. What will help is the marketing side. I am not good with marketing, but my daughter is. So when I started, my daughter would make these great videos and do these great posts. Marketing is a lot, and mine are all encouragement, you can imagine when you look at the Epos page. But I feel like that when you're starting out, to really not try to get so wrapped up with, oh, I've got to have this full staff and I've got to, do this. Take it slow and get your feet underneath you. Get your strength. Go out there. You're going to get told, you may go to 10 people and ask for a little sponsorship or something to be able to help. You're going to get a lot of no's. If you get your feelings hurt easily, you don't need to be a nonprofit, because you've got to be that strong person that can take the no's and let it just propel you. I think the other side for somebody starting out is that to always be mindful and protecting the vision you have. And probably the best advice I can give somebody it was because of an experience I had, but when you're picking out your name for your nonprofit, really pray over that. Make sure that name is protected, and it will legally. Not that I'm an attorney, I'm not giving legal advice before I say this, but you can write a letter to yourself and put out the vision and put out the name on it, and then put it in an envelope, take it to the post office, and mail it back to yourself. Don't open it. Stamp. It secures your trademark. People don't realize that. I did not know that. always protect your trademark, because you don't know where something is going. You don't know how big it's going to get, and you don't know how people might want to benefit from that. So make sure from the beginning you're protecting what you're building. And I think those things are very important. And like I said, I think people just don't always look at the other side. I would encourage people that as they're doing this, sponsors want to see a event of some sort. And there's several different things that don't have to be, very expensive. But, I want my sponsors to come back and say, this was so financially beneficial. Not only did we help all these kids, but this was financially beneficial. So I really try hard to make sure that my networking and the business side, I'm a very strong businesswoman. And so I'm mindful that that sponsor could take their dollars anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure they're getting the very most out of it.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very good advice. And by the way, I've never heard that about writing that information down and mailing it to yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good tip. So my theme this year for 2024 is just about growth. And so I thought I'd ask you about your growth and what you see coming up for 2024, either personally or professionally.
I think for me, it is always being willing to serve anyone, anywhere, when it's not convenient. And I feel like that I want to make sure that it doesn't have to be youth, it can be anyone. I want to serve others. And so each day, I hope that each morning I have the availability to serve. So my goal for this year is to be able to serve others and to walk away from 2024 and said, I was able to serve at a capacity I've never done. And aside from kids, I mean, just truly a servant's heart. And that is important to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I love it and appreciate it. And I know there's so many others who appreciate it as well. So, well, great. Well, thank you for talking to me. I appreciate your time. And I'm going to link all the information so people can find Epos and more about you and about your event coming up too. But thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, dear.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.